Jill Watson's story that Ulhas mentioned actually reminds me that way back at the dawn of the AI age, if I may so put it, back in the late 70s, I think Joe Weizenbaum at MIT had created a program called ELIZA, which basically, basically repeated what whoever was typing in the query said. And it wasn't really about answering questions. It was supposed to be a therapist, a psychologist answering back. And everybody knew that it was a program. Yet a lot of people just developed, so to speak, a relationship with ELIZA. And this is, back in the late 70s, early 80s. And Jill Watson, of course, is a much more evolved version of that. And moreover, Jill Watson was used specifically to answer questions in the computer science program where Ashok Goyal, the professor who developed it, was teaching. So in terms of being able to establish empathy, it can be done. It's not that hard in the following sense. Humans have a tendency to see patterns. I mean, they're pattern recognition machines. So even when there isn't a pattern, they'll impose a pattern on whatever they're seeing. So that's why you come up with all these sometimes weird theories about people explaining things. So in a similar fashion, if they're interacting with someone or something, right, they have a tendency to personalize that. People have names for their cars, and there's so many different examples, and for their computers. So I think it is possible to develop that kind of empathy, and especially if you're familiar with the video game market today, you will know that in addition to text-based interaction and voice interaction, you can actually have images, somebody's face on the screen. And in fact, there are some influencers in social media that are basically AI personalities. So it's possible to develop that. We seem to have got over the what used to be called the uncanny valley, where the person, the image almost looks like a person, but there's something weird about it, right? So you don't feel comfortable with it, or you feel sort of awkward. Well, we've got over that part, more or less, right? So it's possible to understand something like that. But Rahul, I'd go back to one piece that you said about being unbiased. I don't think that's actually the case. In fact, bias, and so AI today, as far as we know it, it's all algorithmic, right? We haven't been able to develop artificial general intelligence in the same sense or equivalent to human intelligence. So what you have got is actually super evolved expert systems, right? And so they're algorithmically designed. And so the design of the algorithm, the data that it considers, the data sets that are provided, they can be biased depending because, on what kind of data you select. So in fact, this is a big area in AI and AI ethics, is to say, how can you assure that the products that you are putting out don't have built-in bias? There've been numerous cases of this over the last decade or so, in policing, in terms of, just ordinary interactions and dispensing soap. I remember there was one, so where darker skin, the dispenser wouldn't dispense soap because it had been trained on, different surface level reflectivity, right? So these kind of things can creep in, and it's very important to be aware of them and to actively look for them and eliminate them to the extent possible. So there is that particular aspect that I would ask, people developing these systems as well as those using these systems to consider, keep in mind.